Continuing on with the Scarlet Citadel by Robert E. Howard. "Back, I say," roared Sotha, roused to awesome wrath. His lean hand came from his sleeve and cast a shower of dust into the Ophirian's contorted face. Almaras cried out and staggered back, clutching at his eyes, the sword falling from his hand. He dropped limply on the divan, while the Kothian guards looked on stolidly, and King Strabanus hurriedly gulped another goblet of wine, holding it with hands that trembled. Almaras lowered his hands and shook his head violently, intelligence slowly sifting back into his gray eyes. "I went blind," he growled. "What did you do to me, wizard?" "Merely a gesture to convince you who was the real master," snapped Sotha. The mask of his formal pretense dropped, revealing the naked evil personality of the man. "Strabanus has learned his lesson. Let you learn yours. It was but a dust I found in a Stygian tomb, which I flung into your eyes. If I brush out their sight again, I will leave you to grope in darkness for the rest of your life." Robert E. Howard really likes the word naked. Just like Lovecraft really loves the word hideous. Almaras shrugged his shoulders, smiled whimsically, and reached for a goblet, dissembling his fear and fury. A polished diplomat, he was quick to regain his poise. Sotha turned to Conan, who had stood imperturbably during the episode. At the wizard's gesture, the guards laid hold of their prisoner and marched him behind Sotha. Sotha, who led the way out of the chamber through an arched doorway into a winding corridor, whose floor was of many-hued mosaics, whose walls were inlaid with gold tissue and silver chasing, and from whose fretted arched ceiling swung golden censers, filling the corridor with dreamy perfumed clouds. They turned down a smaller corridor, done in jet and black jade, gloomy and awful, which ended at a brass door, over whose arch a human skull grinned horrifically. At this door stood a fat, repellent figure, dangling a bunch of keys, Sotha's chief eunuch. I think a eunuch is a guy with his balls cut off. You know, they did that so guys could sing. Shukeli of Sotha's chief eunuch, Shukeli, of whom grisly tales were whispered, a man with whom a bestial lust for torture took the place of normal human passions. Yeah, if I had my balls cut off, I'd want to hurt people too. The brass door led onto a narrow stair. That seemed to wind down into the very bowels of the hill on which the citadel stood. Down these stairs went the band, to halt at last at an iron door, the strength of which seemed unnecessary. Evidently it did not open on outer air, yet it was built as if to withstand the battering of mangonels and rams. Shukeli opened it, and as he swung back the ponderous portal, Conan noted the evident uneasiness among the black giants who guarded him. Nor did Shukeli seem altogether devoid of nervousness as he peered into the darkness beyond. Inside the great door there was a second barrier, composed of great steel bars. It was fastened by an ingenious bolt, which had no lock and could be worked only from the outside. This bolt shot back, the grill slid into the wall. They passed through into a broad corridor, the floor, walls, and arched ceiling of which seemed to be cut out of solid stone. Conan knew he was far underground, even below the hill itself. The darkness pressed in on the guardsmen's torches like a sentient, animate thing. They made the king fast to a ring in the stone wall. Above his head in a niche, in the wall they placed a torch, so that he stood in a dim semicircle of light. The guards were anxious to be gone. They muttered among themselves and cast fearful glances at the darkness. Satha motioned them out, and they filed through the door in stumbling haste, as if fearing the darkness might take tangible form and spring upon their backs. Satha turned toward Conan, and the king noticed uneasily that the wizard's eyes shone in the semi-darkness, and that his teeth much resembled the fangs of a wolf, gleaming whitely in the shadows. "And so, farewell, barbarian," mocked the sorcerer. "I must ride to Shamar and the siege. In 10 days I will be in your palace in Tamar with my warriors. What word from you shall I say to your women before I flay their dainty skins for scrolls whereon to chronicle the triumphs of Sothalanti?" Conan answered with a searing Cimmerian curse that would have burst the very eardrums of an ordinary man. And Satha laughed thinly and withdrew. Conan had a glimpse of his vulture-like figure through the thick-set bars as he slid home the grate. Then the heavy outer door clanged, and silence fell like a pall. And therein ends part 2 of the Scarlet Citadel. I really want to hear what Conan used for his swear words. Why is that stuff always edited? It sucks.